If you've ever wanted to relive the Mass Effect trilogy, the new Expanse game Osiris Reborn can help you do just that. The new Sci-Fi's game design producer has directly said that the original Mass Effect trilogy was absolutely an inspiration to the team, and that Owlcat Games is building on that legacy. And just looking at early gameplay, it looks like Mass Effect in 2025. Let's dive into how Osiris Reborn's plot, gameplay, and companions all give major Mass Effect trilogy vibes, while bringing in the unique elements of the Expanse universe. If you're familiar with the Expanse, feel free to skip ahead, otherwise we'll start with the too long didn't read version of the Expanse universe. Osiris Reborn's setting is going to take place in the expansive Expanse universe, which is basically the future a few hundred years from now, in the 24th century. Humanity has colonized the solar system, but they're still fighting over power, resources, and politics, aka a tale as old as time. The three main factions in this Game of Thrones environment are the Earthers, who are bossy rich people, the Martians, who are military power and innovators, and the Belters, who live on asteroids and moons and are basically second-class citizens. Now here's where the Mass Effect vibes come in. In Osiris Reborn, we'll be playing a customizable protagonist who is from one of these three backgrounds, an Earther, Martian, or Belter. This is similar to choosing between the trilogy's Earthborn, Spacer, and Colonist backgrounds, except the Expanse's version is going to be 100 times more important. Shepard's background didn't really impact the story too much, but in the Expanse, where you're from is where a lot of the tension and conflict in the books and TV show is built. Owlcat Games, who made Osiris Reborn, has emphasized how political tension is one of the biggest parts of the game. And in Mass Effect terms, the closest analogy to this political tension would be similar to the politics surrounding the Genophage, which affected the Salarians, Turians, and Krogan. A lot of conflict and a lot of high stakes involving multiple sides. As for the scale of the game, it'll be taking place in the solar system alone, which is obviously much smaller than Mass Effect scale. But because of the smaller scale, the stakes will be much higher, especially because the political tension between the Earthers, Martians, and Belters will likely be the focus. Now, while the scale of the game isn't as comparable to Mass Effect, the gameplay we've seen screams Mass Effect, but on steroids. The pre-alpha gameplay from the announcement trailer shows stunning third-person shots of spacewalking and environments that have similar vibes to Omega or Kadara Port. It'll also feature a semi-open world setting and skill and weapon customization. The actual shooter gameplay is cover-heavy like the trilogy and looks incredibly action-packed. The devs have mentioned how they want the experience of space to be emphasized, and we can clearly see some type of shootout getting interrupted by a massive gun outside the main environment. We'll be able to shoot from on top of the ceiling or walls because gravitational effects can be bypassed using the series' iconic magnetic boots. The engine used to make Osiris Reborn was also the same as the trilogy, and since it was made using Unreal Engine 5, it'll give us a good sense of what to expect for the next Mass Effect, which will likely use the same engine. We didn't see any role-playing gameplay in the announcement trailer, but the devs have said that there will be a range of dialogue options to choose from, like being the good guy to the pragmatic greedy guy. In terms of range on role-playing, expect choices closer to Mass Effect 3 than Mass Effect 1. We'll likely get hard-hitting plot choices that matter, but not much influence over side mission stuff that doesn't. The Owlcat devs said that the trilogy was an inspiration, and we can see from a gameplay perspective how they've emulated Mass Effect. As for what they have planned with the story and companions, it sounds like everything we've been desperate for in the next Mass Effect. Listen to these quotes from the Expanse dev team. Osiris Reborn is a world grounded in realism and complexity, perfect for telling a story that's mature and character-driven, where your choices truly matter. And the Mass Effect trilogy was iconic. Many of us played it in our teenage years, and it left a lasting impression. We are building on that legacy and expanding what players anticipate from this experience. If the next Mass Effect dev said any of this, we'd all be doing cartwheels for days. Not only have they said Osiris Reborn is going to build on the legacy of the trilogy, despite not even being set in the Mass Effect universe, they themselves have spoken about what the trilogy meant to them. And we can clearly see that trilogy connection impacting the game directly with how we can influence our companions. Just like in the trailer, we'll be able to bring 2 companions on missions, and they'll each have their own abilities and unique combat elements. One of the companions uses turrets and drones, similar to Tali, and another of our first companions will actually be our character's twin, which we'll create in the character creator very reminiscent of the Ryder twins in Andromeda, as the protagonist will be managing loyalty arcs, crew morale, and yes, even choose who among them to romance. The Owlcat devs have implied that all companions will react emotionally, causing our relationships with them to either flourish or fall apart. Just like with playing the trilogy for the first time, prepare to get utterly shattered emotionally over at least one companion. As to where those companions will hang out, our ship will be the main hub, similar to the Normandy. It truly seems like the way this game was built was basically Mass Effect but in the Expanse setting, which as a desperate Mass Effect fan is music to my ears. But even though Osiris Reborn might feel like playing the trilogy for the first time again, it is still going to be its own unique sci-fi, with its own unique mysteries. The game is going to follow the first couple of seasons of the Expanse TV show, with a few actors of the show voicing over their characters in-game. And in the first couple seasons, the show tackles the discovery of something that fundamentally changes science as the Expanse universe knows it. Basically, it's somewhat similar to how humans in Mass Effect discovered mass relays and Element Zero, which literally changed everything. And even though there aren't technically aliens in the Expanse universe, this wacky new phenomenon adds that element in. In the trailer, we see hints of what we'll discover about this phenomenon near the end, and we see some type of creepy hand that hints at it too. Likely, the creepy hand belongs to one of the strange alien-like entities we see at the end of the trailer, which gives me a lot of Husk vibes. Now, the really unique part of The Expanse is how it centers around hard sci-fi. We're going to battle gravitational effects more than Mass Effect, and might even struggle with things we take for granted, like air, water, and ship fuel. With it being a hard sci-fi though, one thing we can count on for sure is no random Star Child-like beings popping in out of nowhere. The problems in the game are going to be real and impact the world in a mature, high-stakes way, just like the books and TV series. Since the announcement trailer said to wishlist the game, expect it to release within the next 6 to 8 months, which is a lot sooner than the next Mass Effect. Osiris Reborn definitely isn't the Mass Effect 5 early release we were praying for, but it's going to be a damn good sci-fi game to fill the void until then. If you are desperate for some Mass Effect though, watch this video next on how the next Mass Effect's plot might reuse the original plot for Mass Effect in its own unique way. See you there!